So it's finally that time of year, and I'm not talking about the holidays, I'm not talking about Christmas, it's list season. And for sneaker outlets like myself, it's the busiest time of the year. But to be fair, it's one of the most fun times of the year because we get to look back at all of the awesome sneaker releases that happened throughout the last year. And even though 2021 was riddled with sneaker pushbacks and shipping delays, it still ended up being a pretty decent year for sneaker releases. And in keeping with sneaker list season, today I wanted to count down the top 10 best sneaker collaborations of 2021. And seriously, this was one of the hardest lists to put together because there were so many great collabs that dropped this year, and actually a lot of the really great sneakers were collaborations. So honestly, this list might even be more competitive than the top 10 sneakers of the year list, which is coming out later this week, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But before we get into today's list, I want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor and also the people who provided a lot of sneakers for this video, Kicks World. So I've talked about Kicks World in the past. They're a really great website that offers a membership that allows you to try sneakers before you buy them. And the last time I talked about them, I showed you this pair of Travis Scott Air Jordan 1 lows, which I got through their membership, and since then I actually ended up buying this pair. And the best part is, if you try out a pair of sneakers and you decide you like them and you want to keep them, they actually offer you a discount on the resale price of the shoe, so you can grab them for less than what you could on other sites. And since picking up this pair, I actually ended up grabbing another pair of sneakers, and that's this pair of Joe Freshgoods New Balance 993s. So I grabbed this pair of sneakers with my Kicks membership because I wanted to try it out before I actually invested the money in this shoe. I wanted to try it out with like different outfits and wear it around for a while and find out if this is a shoe that I could see myself rocking like every day. And that's my favorite thing about Kicks World, is that you can try out sneakers before you buy them, so you can make sure that they fit right, that they feel right, and that they look good on you. Especially when you're grabbing sneakers like these Travis Scotts, which resell for around $1,500. I want to make sure that the sneakers fit, that they look good, and that it's a shoe that I would actually wear before I drop all that money on them. So if you would like to check out Kicks World for yourself, which I definitely recommend, I've made sure to leave a link to them in the description below. And also thank you to Kicks for providing a lot of the sneakers for today's video. I actually didn't have a lot of the sneakers that I needed for today's list, so Kicks came in clutch. But at this point, why don't we dive right into the list and start things off with some honorable mentions, because I could not fit all of the sneakers in a top 10 list. It just wasn't gonna happen. So I'm not gonna go too in depth on these honorable mentions because there's like 4 of them. I could have added more, but I felt like 4 was a decent amount. And there are different reasons why these shoes didn't make the list. A lot of them are opinion based because this list is totally based on my own opinion. Not to say that these shoes aren't great shoes. All of these shoes are awesome, but at the same time, in my opinion, some of these shoes are just more awesome. So my first honorable mention is the Fragment Travis Scott Air Jordan 1 highs. Now I know for a lot of people it doesn't make sense why this shoe wouldn't be on the top 10 list, seeing that it's one of the most hyped up sneakers of the entire year. But when a sneaker like this is overshadowed by a low top release of the same collaboration, I just don't feel like this sneaker had the same sort of impact that it could have if it just released on its own. And also, I just feel like the low top version of the shoe looks better. I understand that this shoe is inspired by non-release samples of the original Air Jordan 1 colorways, but at the same time, the lows just look way better, and I just don't feel like spending $3,000 on a pair of shoes that I probably wouldn't even wear that much. After that, we've got the Social Status Nike Dunk Mid Chocolate Milk. So I actually really love this collaboration, both the strawberry version and the chocolate milk version. I think I like the chocolate milk version better personally, but they're both great shoes. And while I think this is an extremely well executed collaboration, I love the fact that they went for a Dunk Mid silhouette instead of a high or a low. They went for something a little bit different. But for me, when you compare it to the rest of the sneakers on this list, it just barely didn't make the cut. It was close, but it just barely didn't make it. And so for that reason, it's an honorable mention and not one of the top 10. After that is probably another surprise for a lot of people, and that's the Ma Maniere Air Jordan 1s. While this shoe is genuinely one of my favorite sneaker releases of the entire year, and I absolutely love this shoe. In fact, if I made a list of just my top 10 favorite sneakers that released this year, this would probably be on that list. But at the end of the day, it kind of felt like this shoe was overshadowed by the Air Jordan 3s, and while the story behind this shoe is different than the Air Jordan 3s, it's a pretty similar looking sneaker. The color blocking is kind of the same. It kind of feels like more of a sequel than its own original thing, and some of you guys might hate me for saying that, and I don't mean any disrespect to Ma Maniere. I love this sneaker, and honestly, if you're going to do a sneaker collaboration, it makes sense to make them seem like they're in the same family. But if we're counting down the top 10 collaborations of the year, I feel like the shoe, again, just doesn't quite make the cut. And actually, I did have this shoe at the number 10 spot for a while. I was working on this list for like 2 weeks, and then I did eventually switch it out for a shoe, which I don't like as much as this shoe, but I feel like it was more, not groundbreaking, but it definitely had more impact on sneaker culture this year than this shoe did. And also, the shoe just sheds so much. Like, every time I hold it, I get stuff all over me. And then the final honorable mention is the Trophy Room Air Jordan 1 Freeze Outs. So I struggled a lot with the placement of this shoe on the list, and not for the reasons that you might think. I actually was struggling whether I should put this shoe in the honorable mention or just leave it off the list completely. There's nothing wrong with this shoe. I love Trophy Room as a store. I think it's awesome that Michael Jordan's son has created his own legacy. I think that's super cool. And genuinely, the sneaker looks cool, and I really like this story behind the shoe and the material choices because of that story. But all of that being said, comparing this shoe to a standard pair of Chicago Air Jordan 1s, it just doesn't do it for me. I'd much rather have the standard Chicagos, and I do have the standard Chicagos, but really the main reason I feel like the shoe just did not deserve to be on the list is because the release of this shoe was so insanely botched. I mean, there are so many rumors swirling about the release of this shoe and that Marcus Jordan actually backdoored pairs to resellers for resale prices, and that's why there was like 5 pairs that actually hit his website. It was just such a difficult shoe to get, and honestly, I don't think it looks as good as the resale price is. I mean, not that any shoe looks $3,000 good. I don't know, it just kind of felt like the origin story Air Jordan 1s for me. Like, that's a great shoe, but it's not a $3,000 shoe. Again, I'd still rather have the regular Chicagos, and the same goes for this shoe. It's fine, it's nice, I don't mind it, but I would never pay the resale price for this shoe, and the botched release just made it even worse. But now let's dive into the actual list, and at number 10, we've got the Sacai Fragment Nike LD Waffle. So Fragment's an imprint that's been a long time collaborator with Nike, and it's no surprise that they continue the collaborations because their collaborations are always hyped up and usually sell out. But what I think is interesting is all of the triple collaborations that we've had release over the last year. And out of all of the triple collaborations, my favorite, and I think the overall best, was the Fragment Sacai Nike LD Waffles. No, this is not the only Sacai Nike collaboration this year. We had a Cause Sacai Nike collaboration, we had a Clot Nike Sacai collaboration, we had a bunch of triple collaborations, but out of all of them, the Fragment one was the least overdone, and in my opinion, just the best looking. I mean, when you look at the Sacai Nike LD Waffle, it's already a pretty crazy sneaker because it's already 2 sneakers mashed together. And so when you add a third collaboration on top of that, it makes sense to kind of tone things down a little bit and focus more on the materials and the color choices. And I think that's what Fragment did so well. They created something that looks pretty simple from a distance, but when you get up close, you can really appreciate all the different material choices and all the different panel layering, and I think that's really cool. And this particular colorway, the Wolf Gray colorway, while it doesn't come in Fragment's signature blue, it's still a great looking sneaker, and in my opinion, out of the two, while I like the blue one at first, the more that I look at these shoes, I think the gray one is my favorite. Plus, the material quality on this shoe, in particular the suede, feels great to the touch. I also love how the overlapping Nike swooshes come in ever so slightly different shades of gray, or I guess white and gray. It looks really nice, and while it's not the most exciting collab in the world, it's one that I think you could wear every day and get away with it, whether it's to a business meeting or to a sneaker event. I think it's a really great looking shoe. Also, I love the little Fragment hit on the top tongue. It wouldn't be a Fragment shoe without the Fragment lightning bolts, and I think it looks really good there. It's subtle, it's quiet, it's not pressed in like it usually is on the heel of the shoe. I just can't overstate it. It's just a really clean and well done collaboration. Next up at number 9, we've got a sneaker from one of the most prolific collaborators of 2021, Salehe Bembury, and that shoe is the Salehe Bembury New Balance 574 Yurt. In my opinion, this collaboration does not get the love that it deserves. I love his 2002 R silhouettes. In fact, I have both of those collaborations. I think even the blue colorway released this year, but I didn't put it on the list because we had the orange one and I like the orange one better, and that released last year. It's a whole big thing. But the reason I put this shoe on the list is because this shoe is absolutely insane. If you didn't already know, the back of this shoe is a whistle. I might have to mute this part or turn down the sound because it's probably gonna make the mic pop, but here we go. That's crazy. I never in a million years would have thought to put a whistle on the back of the shoe, but it makes sense with the story of the collaboration. This is the kind of shoe that you'd wear when you were camping or going on a hike, and if you got lost or you got stuck, you got a whistle on the back of your shoe so that you can blow it and people can find you. It's a super cool story, super cool inspiration, and I mean, it's insane. It's also nuts at the same time. But for me, my favorite part of the shoe isn't so much the whistle, which was definitely the reason that I first bought this shoe because I wanted to see what this whistle was all about, but it's the overall shape and the chunkiness and the design of this shoe. It's got that sort of designer bulky feel, which makes sense because Salehe came from Versace where he designed bulky shoes. But what makes this shoe so special to me is that it looks so different than anything else out there. And it's the kind of shoe that you really can dress up or dress down depending on the situation. You could see it on a runway or you could see it literally on a hike. It's such a versatile sneaker, but it's got such a unique look. Not to mention the material quality on this shoe is absolutely insane. And actually what blows my mind the most about this shoe is that if you look at the standard 574, the New Balance 574, that shoe looks completely different than this shoe. And it's crazy because even though this shoe is based on that shoe, it's been almost completely redesigned from the ground up. And you guys know me, I'm a huge New Balance fan. I love everything that they put out. And that's honestly the reason that I first got into Salehe Bembury, because I loved his 2002 Rs. But now that I'm seeing more and more of the work that he's putting out, I'm just becoming a huge Salehe Bembury fan just in general. And even though the shoe is not one of his most hyped up collaborations, I really think that the 574 is the main reason that I really became a big fan of Salehe Bembury, because this shoe is so crazy and I love it. Continuing on with the New Balance collaborations, at number 8 we've got the Joe Freshgoods New Balance 990 V3 outside close. So last year, Joe Freshgoods released what is in my opinion one of the best sneaker collaborations of the last decade, the Joe Freshgoods New Balance 992s. So this collaboration is called Outside Close and definitely comes in a much more wintry sort of fall-like vibe. So obviously I love this collaboration because of the color palette that he used, but I also love the fact that he went with the 990 V3, which is my favorite 990. I think out of all the 990 iterations, the 990 V3 is just the best looking. The 990 V5, the latest version of the shoe, is extremely comfortable and honestly is a little bit more comfortable on foot than the 990 V3s, even though they're both pretty comfortable shoes in general. But the paneling on this shoe is just a little bit more exciting in my opinion. I think the shape is a little bit cleaner, and overall I just like the sportier vibe of this shoe. Also, I've got to say I'm very excited about the New Balance 990 V6s dropping next year. That shoe's gonna be crazy and I cannot wait to see collabs on that sneaker. But getting back into the colors used on this shoe, I love the tans and light browns used on the suedes and the different panels of the upper. I love the bright blue mesh. I think that really pops on the sneaker. I love the little sort of small hits of green that you can find throughout the shoe that you can't really see right off the bat, but you start to notice them as you look over the sneaker. It's just all around such a well done collaboration. And well, to be completely honest, I don't like it as much as his last collaboration on the 992s because I feel like that shoe is just almost impossible to follow up. This is definitely a solid sequel. Actually, also, I really love the typeface that he used for the words outside close on the back of the shoe. I think that looks really cool. And also the Joe Freshgoods hit right there on the lateral side of the heel. Usually that's the 990 logo, but on this shoe it says Joe Freshgoods, and I love it. I think all around, great collaboration. Next up at number 7, we've got the Patta Nike Air Max 1 Monarch. So Patta, like Fragment and Sacai, is a frequent collaborator with Nike, and they've genuinely released some of the best Nike collaborations to date, and it looks like in 2021, they've done it once again. The Patta Air Max 1 is a subtle but incredibly clean twist on the classic Nike Air Max 1 silhouette. Essentially, what Patta did is change the paneling along the bottom of the upper and give it a wave motif, which I think looks incredible and is so simple but also so clean. I mean, seriously, it seems like such a small change, but it really does completely change up the look of the upper of this sneaker, and I love it. And especially in this launch Monarch colorway, I think the oranges and the whites and the aged midsole all go together so well. Not that I don't like the blue colorway, but this one is by far the best in my opinion. It's just crazy how such a small change can make this sneaker so much more exciting, and take a sneaker like the Air Max 1, which granted is one of the most popular Nike models of all time, but currently is not that hyped up, and turn it into a sneaker that everyone wants. Plus, you know me, I'm a sucker for small Nike swooshes on the toe of the sneaker. I don't know why, I just am. And so of course I love the addition of the embroidered white Nike swoosh on the toe of the sneaker. I think it all comes together so well and just makes one of the best Air Max 1s to release in a very long time. I mean, why is this sneaker so dope? It's just such a sick looking shoe. It's crazy. I love it. Following that up at number 6, we've got the Off-White Air Jordan 2 Low. So while 2021 was a great year for sneakers, we did lose one of the most influential sneaker designers of all time. And that of course was Virgil Abloh, a designer that I personally really looked up to. I had a chance to meet him. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had as far as sneakers are concerned. It's an incredibly sad situation. He will be incredibly missed, and I hope he rests in peace because he really was a genuinely incredible person. But the reason this Air Jordan 2 is on the list is not just because it was Virgil's last release with Jordan Brand and with Nike, but it's also because of the story behind this shoe. And I'm gonna be honest, when I first heard about this sneaker, I didn't get it. I didn't understand why he was doing a sneaker like this, or really what the reason for making the sneaker look like this was. And the more that I learn about this shoe and the more that I look at this shoe, the more that I realize that it genuinely is a really cool piece of art. So the idea behind this sneaker is that this shoe was inspired by a game-worn pair of Air Jordan 2s that Michael Jordan himself wore that was in the Nike archives that he signed, and that over the last few decades has had a midsole that's just cracked from time. And so understanding that that is the inspiration behind this shoe, I have a much greater appreciation for this shoe. And it makes all these details around the sneaker so much cooler, like the Michael Jordan signature, the aged details on the eyelets, the aged and cracked midsole, which I've got to say is definitely the most eye-catching part of this sneaker. This sort of midsole design is something that we've never really seen before. We've seen real cracked midsoles, we've seen aged midsoles that kind of looked like they're older, but we've never seen someone actually take resin and put it into a midsole that's essentially actually cracked. And I think that use of materials is kind of groundbreaking in this application. It really gives the shoe a super cool effect. While it's not the most comfortable material underfoot and it's also pretty heavy, it definitely makes this shoe a really cool art piece. And I think that Virgil's execution on this concept is incredible. I think he knocked it out of the park. I think he did almost a flawless job on this shoe. and I think this will go down as probably one of the best Air Jordan 2 collaborations of all time. Continuing on with low top Air Jordan collaborations, at number 5 we've got the Travis Scott Fragment Air Jordan 1 Low. So like I mentioned earlier on in the video, I think the low top Travis Scott Fragment collaboration is by far the best. And that's not so much because of the silhouette. While I do like the Air Jordan 1 Low, I much prefer the Air Jordan 1 High. I think the reason this shoe is so much more popular is because of the colorway. This colorway is essentially the Fragment Air Jordan 1 colorway with a twist, and I love it. And I've just got to say that the Fragment Air Jordan 1s, the original Fragment Air Jordan 1s, is one of those sneakers that has always been a grail of mine that I don't think I'm ever gonna get, but I'd love to have one day. It's like a crazy $5,000 sneaker, and I should have just bought it when people were finding it at Ross, and you could buy it for like 1,500 bucks, but I missed the boat. I think this shoe is the most high-profile example of a triple collaboration on a Nike or Air Jordan sneaker. As you could have guessed from the name, this shoe is a collaboration between artist Travis Scott, design imprint Fragment, and of course Air Jordan. And like the Fragment Sacai Nike LD waffles that we talked about earlier, this shoe is a pretty subtle Fragment collaboration. In fact, the only real Fragment details that we find on the shoe are the color blocking, the Fragment logo on the heel, and a little bit of Fragment text on the medial side of the midsole. Of course, being a Travis Scott collaboration, you've got your backwards Nike swoosh on the lateral side that matches the midsole with the sort of aged cream color. In addition to that, you've got sort of an aged cream colored tongue. You've got aged laces that go with it. You can also switch them out for black laces or pink laces. And then on the medial side of the shoe, you've got a standard Nike swoosh in black with sort of a hidden white Travis Scott logo or Cactus Jack logo printed on the midfoot. Now for me personally, this is a shoe that I've been trying to grab for the longest time, and big thank you to Kicks for making this possible. I love the color palette on this shoe. I think that the off-white colored backwards Nike swoosh is incredible, and honestly I'm probably going to use this shoe for a lot of the upcoming Apothecary shoes because it's a low top Air Jordan 1 and it's fire. So if you follow my sock brand at all, you're going to see this shoe popping up a lot in photos. And maybe this is just the hype beast in me talking, but I think this might be my favorite Air Jordan 1 release of the year. The Breads are definitely a close second, maybe a close third. We've got the Ma Maniere Air Jordan 1s, which are up there as well. But this shoe is fire, and I cannot wait to rock this shoe more. Next up, we've got another shoe from Salehe Bembury. See, I told you he was one of the most prolific collaborators of 2021. At number 4, we've got the Salehe Bembury Pollex Croc. So unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, I do not have a pair of these in hand. I do have a pair coming in. I was able to secure a pair, and I'm super excited about it, and I will be dropping a review. So if you guys want to see that review, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as they come in. This shoe is one of the craziest and most insane collaborations of the entire year. And not only is this shoe insane looking, but what's even more insane is how much hype was built up about a pair of Crocs. And over the last couple years, we've started to see sort of a resurgence from brands that were not always known as cool, but are now coming back as some of the most popular brands of the year. And those brands in particular are brands like New Balance and now Crocs. And this actually won't be my first Crocs review. I did a Crocs review on Inside Edition of the Post Malone Crocs. I did a standard Crocs review a couple years back on the channel, and this by far is one of my favorite collaborations of the year because not only is it just an insane sneaker in general, and you guys know how I love insane sneakers, I love the foam runners, but also I just genuinely love the way this sneaker looks. So I think the idea behind the design of this sneaker is actually Salehe Bembury's fingerprint, and that's why you've got all these raised ridges on the shoe. He leaves his fingerprint on every sneaker collaboration that he does. I think it's a super cool detail, and the fact that he designed a whole sneaker around that idea or concept is crazy, and I love it. Not only that, he somehow got Crocs to create a whole new mold for this shoe. I don't think they've ever really done that for any other sneaker collaboration or shoe collaboration because it's a Croc. That's just so cool to see. I think Salehe Bembury has such a huge influence on sneaker culture now, and this shoe in general is just one of my favorite sneakers of the year. I think I might actually do a top 10 favorite sneakers of the year list because this one might be really close to the top. All in all, the Salehe Bembury Pollex Crocs is an incredible shoe. I cannot wait to have a pair in hand, and make sure to stay tuned for the review because it's going to be crazy. At number 3 is the ALD New Balance 550 in the natural green colorway. So this shoe, honestly, I would have put higher up on the list, and it probably would be pretty high up on the list of my own personal favorites of the year. But the reason that it's not at like the number 1 or number 2 spot is because this shoe is sort of just a different colorway of a silhouette that came out last year. And up until last year, this shoe was actually in the vault and they weren't releasing any 550s. So essentially what happened was Teddy Santis, the founder of ALD and now the creative director of New Balance, I'm pretty sure, decided to take the sneaker out of the vault and create an ALD collaboration, actually very similar to what he did on the 827s. And I think it's fair to say that the ALD collaboration set this sneaker off. People were going crazy for this shoe. And while yes, the first few colorways of the ALD New Balance 550 collaboration dropped last year, the colorway that really got the most notoriety was this colorway, the natural green colorway. And if you talk to really any hype beast or sneaker enthusiast about the ALD New Balance 550, this is a colorway that they will inevitably bring up. There's something about this forest green matched with this sort of aged midsole and this cracked yellow New Balance logo that just makes this shoe pop. It feels retro, it feels classic, but at the same time it feels fresh and modern. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know that I love classic 80s basketball sneakers. I love the Air Jordan 1, I love the Adidas Forum, and I love the New Balance 550s, and I'm so excited to see this shoe coming back. And next year, I think we're actually getting the 650s, which is a high top version of this shoe, so I'm super excited for that release as well. But for me, this pair of ALD New Balance 550s is one of my favorite releases of the year, bar none. I absolutely love this shoe, and I've worn it a bunch. In fact, I love it so much that I have 2 other pairs of New Balance ALDs. I kind of have a problem, I think. And honestly, this is the colorway that started my love of the 550s, and I think this colorway had a pretty incredible impact on sneaker culture this year. Coming in at number 2 is the Off-White Nike Dunk Low The 50 collection. So this collection is just another example of Virgil Abloh being a visionary. When they first announced that they were releasing 50 different pairs of pretty similar looking Nike Dunk Lows, I was like, yo, what's happening? This is ridiculous. And then when they finally released, I got it. I understood. There is no other sneaker collaboration in the world that has people buying 50 different pairs of essentially the same sneaker. I mean, the hype on this collection is unreal, and honestly, I kind of get it. Even though a majority of these shoes come in pretty much just a white and gray upper, the thing that really makes these shoes special are the material differences, the changes in color of the laces and accents, and just the fact that there are 50 different versions of one shoe. It's crazy. And actually, come to think of it, the release procedure for this shoe was also one of the reasons this shoe was so special. When you bought this sneaker, you didn't know which pair you were getting. You had no idea what lot number you were getting. You had no idea if you were getting the black one or the white one, because those are the most limited or rare ones. You didn't know which color of the gray and white ones you were going to get. And it kind of reminded me of buying Pokemon cards. You knew that you were getting some sort of sneaker, but you didn't know exactly what colorway it was. And there's a chance for you to get a rarer version of the shoe or a not so rare version of the shoe. And I think the whole thing was so interesting and so well orchestrated that it honestly took me by surprise. Like I said, before this shoe released, I didn't get it. I didn't understand the hype. The sneaker itself, while it is a really cool looking sneaker and I'd like to have a personal pair, for me, what made this collaboration so groundbreaking was just the release of it. I think the release of the Off-White The 50 collection is going to be one of those releases that's going to be talked about for years to come. I think people are going to try and copy it and try and replicate it, and it's just going to be one of those iconic moments in sneaker culture that we may never have again. So that is why a collection of seemingly 50 different versions of the same colorway of the same sneaker is number 2 on this list. And then, unsurprisingly, coming in at number 1 on the list, we've got the Ma Maniere Air Jordan 3 raised by women. When this sneaker first released, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that this shoe would be the sneaker of the year, and I actually totally understand why. Although this shoe is seemingly a pretty simple colorway, you've got a white leather upper, you've got some suede hits on the heel and on the toe, and then of course you've got an aged midsole and sort of a maroonish colored midsole accent. The combination of these colors and these materials together is something that we haven't really seen on an Air Jordan 3 before, and is one of the cleanest Air Jordan 3 colorways of all time. I mean, this shoe genuinely is going to go down as one of the best Air Jordan 3 collaborations ever, and like I said, probably one of the best Air Jordan 3 colorways ever. Not only that, but this shoe is a women's exclusive. The fact that a women's only sneaker is going down as one of the best Air Jordan 3s of all time is crazy. And for me personally, this is one of mine and also my wife's most worn sneakers of the year. She doesn't wear my pair, she has her own pair, but we both wear this shoe all the time. I actually just recently wore this shoe to Disney World, and surprisingly, it's still in pretty decent condition. And actually what surprises me even more is that the printing on the heel of the sneaker, even though I've worn this shoe probably honestly 50 times, the printed logo on the insole of the shoe is still there. I don't know how they did that. That's crazy. I wore the Travis Scotts like twice and the printed logo is gone. I don't know what happened with that, but this shoe, I mean, is mind-blowing for a lot of different reasons. Plus the story behind this shoe, the fact that this shoe is inspired by James Whitner, the founder of Ma Maniere's mother. I think the shoe is absolutely incredible. I think everything about this shoe is on point. It's not overdone. It's not too out there. It's the perfect shoe. I'm also just a sucker for suede and tumbled leather, and I think it looks great on this shoe. I love that they switched out the elephant print for the suede. I think that's such a nice touch. I love the Nike Air logo on the heel. I love the aged color of the heel tab and the midsole. Everything about this shoe is just like, it's perfect. And I didn't even mention the quilted sock liner of the shoe. That just makes the shoe feel so much more premium. And so for all of those reasons and more, the Air Jordan 3 Ma Maniere is on the top of this list. But with that, we pretty much wrap up the entire list for today. Thank you so much for watching. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on this list and whether you feel like I left any shoes off the list or whether you feel like the order was a little out of place. Make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Once again, huge thank you to Kicks for sponsoring today's video. If you guys want to check out Kicks World for yourself, which I definitely recommend, make sure to check them out out by clicking the link in the description below. And as always, thanks again for watching. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all in the next one.